underground destinations. 3 different environments. But all 3 have something in common. Each has been held hostage by a killer. In Yosemite National Park, a handyman snuffs out the lives of 4 nature lovers. Then, a world away in Miami's South Beach, a serial killer sets his sights on fashion superstar Gianni Versace. 3 decades earlier, the mysterious Boston Strangler murders 13 women. Then, a construction worker confesses to the crimes.
Albert DeSalvo is not the Boston Strangler.
Now, through the eyes of those who can never forget, new revelations about 3 of the most notorious crimes in American history. On Crime Scene Secrets, Famous Places, Infamous Cases. Boston, Massachusetts. A first-class city, long recognized for its dynamic culture, academic achievements, and its historic role in the founding of America. But in the early 1960s, New England's largest city is in the news for something ominous.
Charles Street, in the heart of Boston's Beacon Hill. This is where a 2.5-year reign of terror came to a crashing end for the family of Mary Sullivan, for my family. She was the last victim of the Boston Strangler, and she was killed right in this apartment building, 44A. Hopefully, sometime soon I'll be able to come to this place, look at this apartment building, and talk to Mary and say, Mary, we found your killer. Now you can rest.
Casey Sherman is on a mission to find his Aunt Mary's true killer. Most believe Mary Sullivan is the Boston Strangler's final victim. But perhaps she's not. The mystery begins in June 1962 in Boston's picturesque Back Bay. While a parade passes by honoring astronaut Alan Shepard, 55-year-old Anna Slessens is beaten, sexually assaulted, and strangled in her home. Over the next year and a half, 10 more women are found murdered in their homes. The first victims are older and white. Then, suddenly, the criminal's profile shifts. He starts killing younger females of various races.
Knew when the next strike would be. It was just awful.
Boston Globe columnist Brian McGrory was just a baby in 1964, but he is now one of America's leading experts on the Boston Strangler case.
This was America's first real serial killer, and probably still the most infamous. He is our Jack the Ripper.
Finally, on January 4th, 1964, the reign of terror ends here in the city's Gaslight District. 19-year-old Mary Sullivan had just moved to Boston 3 days earlier, but she is found strangled to death.
She was always a lot of fun. She was my older sister, and she always looked out for me, and we were always together everywhere.
Diane Dodd eagerly wants her sister to stay with her on Cape Cod through the Christmas holidays. But Mary is excited about a new job and her new life in Boston.
I kept saying, why do you have to go to Boston? I said, Mary, we're having so much fun. And I remember saying it 3 times that day, that the day she was leaving on a Sunday. And I thought, oh, the heck with you, Mary, go ahead. And I thought, if I had only said it one more time, maybe she would have stayed. I went home, and my mother was holding my sister's, Mary's, graduation picture, and she was just hugging it. It's just awful.
The search for the Strangler goes nowhere for more than a year. Then, out of the blue, a stunning development. A man facing life in prison for a series of unrelated rapes contacts attorney F. Lee Bailey and confesses to the stranglings. His name is Albert DeSalvo.
When I first talked to Albert, I said, well, I've got to find out if you're crazy or if you're talking turkey here.
Police get wind of the meeting.
I approached Lee Bailey with the idea that we would ask Albert a half a dozen questions that only the murderer could know.
Bailey lets his new client talk to police and hatches a radical plan.
The only defense there was that he was crazy, and that to demonstrate the fact that he was crazy, we would bring in the stranglings as evidence.
He didn't want to go to prison. He was convinced that by confessing to these crimes, he'd be studied at a secure psychiatric hospital for the rest of his life. And Albert DeSalvo wanted that.
Boston Strangler expert Brian McGrory says Bailey surprises nearly everyone by taking the chance of his career.
So he gambled in serial killings on DeSalvo without DeSalvo ever being tried for them, and Bailey lost.
And so does his client DeSalvo. The 33-year-old father of two is convicted on all rape charges and gets the last thing he wants, life in prison.
The biggest shock I found out in this case is that Albert DeSalvo was never even charged with any of the Boston Stranglings.
Police are quickly convinced that Albert DeSalvo is the Boston Strangler.
He simply knew far too much innocuous detail for any faker to have ever assimilated or remembered.
So the search for the killer ends.
There were plenty of things that were told that was not printed, that was not in a police report, not in a photograph, that in order to know it, you'd have to be there.
Some believe, maybe not.
DeSalvo was famous for having a photographic memory. So that got a lot of people believing that what DeSalvo did was he memorized everything that was in the papers on the various killings, on the different murder scenes, and then he repeated them back to investigators verbatim.
I was never convinced it was Albert DeSalvo.
So why does an innocent man want to become the most hated person in America?
Albert DeSalvo confessed to these crimes as a money-making scheme. He had 2 young children and a wife, and behind bars there wasn't any way for him to make any money. So he thought, geez, by selling my rights to a book and a movie, I can at least give them something.
In fact, Casey and his family are convinced that several of the murders are copycat crimes.
There wasn't just one Boston Strangler.
Any criminal profiler will tell you that it's extraordinary for a serial killer to change the demographic of his victims so dramatically. It doesn't make any sense.
Officer James Mellon even resigns from the task force in protest when DeSalvo is named the only suspect.
As his wife said to me, I know he's oversexed, but killing old ladies, never.
A lot of people will say that, well, the killing stopped when DeSalvo was arrested. That's not true at all. The killing stopped a full 10 months before DeSalvo was arrested on unrelated crimes.
But others say there's no question that police have the right man.
I am convinced, as of this date, that Albert DeSalvo was, in fact, the Boston Strangler, because the details he knew about the crimes, no one could have known unless they were there.
So is Albert DeSalvo a serial killer or just a compulsive liar? Casey and his family are convinced the answer has been under lock and key for decades. But first, back to 1965. Albert DeSalvo is now behind bars, and the Boston Strangler case is considered closed.
Disappointed in this
court decision, yes.
Why? You happy to be going back to Bridgewater?
No comment.
But just a month after DeSalvo is convicted, fear grips Boston again when he escapes from prison. Pandemonium breaks out. Police scour Boston's countryside in an intense manhunt for the escaped killer.
Our fingers were crossed, hoping that he wouldn't commit another murder.
All of Boston panics. Finally, 2 years later, DeSalvo is apprehended in nearby Lynn, and now he's sent to the maximum security prison in Walpole. He spends the next several years in Walpole prison, where he continues to enjoy his notoriety as the Boston Strangler. Then, 8 years later, on November 26, 1973, DeSalvo is murdered in prison.
Albert was selling speed at below the market price, and therefore his competitors, who also sold speed, gave him a warning that that was not permitted. And apparently he ignored the warning and was punished for it with a number of fatal stab wounds.
But now, Albert DeSalvo's own brother Richard claims that Albert had been murdered because he was about to name the real Boston Strangler.
I believe somebody on the outside that had the power wanted Albert dead, silenced.
Richard is convinced that he knows who had ordered his brother's murder to hide the secret of the Boston Strangler's real identity.
Bailey was in his prime at that time. And who better would want to have Albert shut up is F. Lee Bailey. And that's what I believe.
That is stupid and ridiculous. I had no contact with Albert DeSalvo for the few years before his killing. The last thing in the world I would have wanted to happen was to see something happen to Albert.
F. Lee Bailey, frankly, is a slimy snake. I think he's dirty, rotten. I think he used and exploited my brother.
Well, the DeSalvo family is a little bit crazy. I mean, Richard told me that he knew Albert was the guy, and now he's saying, oh no, that never happened.
Today, in an unlikely alliance, the brother of the accused Boston Strangler and the Sullivan family have joined forces.
Casey, how you doing there? Haven't seen you in a long time.
We are willing to let science solve this mystery once and for all.
Working with high-powered lawyers Elaine and Dan Sharp, they persuade authorities to re-examine the evidence and to even exhume Mary's body for their own DNA experts to study. But it's an uphill battle.
The state doesn't want to reopen this case because if they do, they're going to have to reopen a huge can of worms here. If Albert DeSalvo didn't kill Mary Sullivan, then that calls into question all the other stranglings.
The Massachusetts Attorney General can't comment because of a gag order stemming from the family's lawsuit. But Casey Sherman is convinced he has the truth on tape.
You're hearing parts of this confession tape never heard before.
The exclusive confessions from Albert DeSalvo himself. In 1965, Albert DeSalvo confesses to the Boston Stranglings. To anyone hearing his chilling confessions, his guilt appears obvious. But on a quest to show DeSalvo wasn't his Aunt Mary's killer, Casey Sherman points to these so-called confessions to prove his theory.
I found Albert DeSalvo's confession and I put it up to the official autopsy report in Mary's murder, and it was completely wrong. The most important thing, he said he strangled my aunt with his bare hands, with his thumbs against her Adam's apple. When we were forced to exhume my aunt's body earlier last year, we found that her neck bone, her hyoid bone, was still intact. Now, this bone is crushed in 99.9% of all manual strangulations. Albert DeSalvo didn't strangle her with his bare hands. She was strangled with 3 ligatures, a nylon stocking and 2 scarves. Albert DeSalvo, and this is pretty tough for me to say, also claimed that he forced my aunt into intercourse, and that he had left traces of seminal evidence inside her body. The autopsy report showed no trace of seminal evidence inside her body. He goes on to say that he knocked my aunt unconscious with a blow to the reautopsy in October of 2000 showed no blunt trauma to the skulls. Now, to me, that's the smoking gun in this case.
But if Albert DeSalvo didn't kill Mary Sullivan, who did?
I know where he is. I know what he's doing.
Casey won't name his suspect, but he says it's a man who knew Mary's roommates.
And I've actually spoken to him on the phone. I said, I said, did you kill Mary? Would you be willing to take a DNA test? And he said, not without a court order, I won't. I said, well, one may be coming someday for you, so you just better be prepared for that day.
And what if modern science someday proves that the real Boston Strangler has never been caught?
If the DNA shows something other than I believe, there is no sin in being wrong. We had good reasons for being wrong.
Today, the metropolis that calls itself the gateway to America is more concerned with the Boston Red Sox than with the Boston Strangler. But Casey Sherman and his mother will never forget. They are determined to uncover the Strangler's secrets, not only for themselves, but for Mary.
Mary wants her killer found. He was this 19-year-old kid that didn't deserve what happened to her.
Only doing this for Mary. She's got to have this done, and soon.
Now, to Miami's South Beach. It's a dream destination for a giant of fashion. That is, until Gianni Versace crosses paths with a serial killer.
He might have pulled that gun on me.
South Beach, Miami, Florida. 15 blocks of beautiful beaches, beautiful buildings, and of course, beautiful people. But just a few years earlier, South Beach is known for its low rent and high crime. Then, this man comes to town.
Everything can inspire me. I think I'm so curious, and life is so beautiful.
It's 1992, and fashion designer Gianni Versace brings his world of unrestrained opulence to South Beach from Milan, Italy. The man who's built $1 billion fashion empire turns a rundown apartment building on Ocean Avenue into a grand Mediterranean villa. Miami Beach's police chief and other city officials welcome Versace with open arms.
We were glad to see him to come here and put his name, associate his name with South Beach.
Gianni Versace had risen from the post-war poverty of southern Italy. Perhaps that's why he builds his company on the notion that there should be no barriers between the worlds of high and low cultures. His collections range from diamonds to denim. Fast forward to 1997. Versace is now the toast of South Beach and the entire fashion world. Little does he know, he's about to cross paths with a serial killer. Across the country in San Diego, California, 27-year-old Andrew Cunanan is on the verge of a killing spree. The prep school graduate turned male prostitute is known for both his out-of-control spending and his violent temper. He starts to gain weight and thinks he's losing his looks. His fragile ego is shattered when his list of lovers and clients dwindles. And Andrew Cunanan gets very angry. Cunanan buys a one-way plane ticket to Minneapolis, Minnesota to visit two men who had spurned him, David Madsen and Jeffrey Trail. After an apparent argument, he murders the pair. Then, he drives to Chicago in Madsen's Jeep. There, Cunanan slashes the throat of real estate tycoon Lee Miglin. Before he steals Miglin's Lexus, Cunanan leaves Madsen's Jeep near the crime scene. Police psychologists believe this first clue may show Cunanan's secret desire to flaunt his trail of terror. Cunanan strikes next in southern New Jersey, shooting and killing cemetery caretaker William Reese, apparently to steal his truck. Police psychologists are convinced that Cunanan is now addicted to the excitement of the chase and may try to one-up himself. He does. He is about to make his way to the city that fashion designer Gianni Versace has transformed, Miami's South Beach. By early May 1997, Andrew Cunanan, a killer on a spree, is in Miami, Florida. He checks into Miami's low-rent Normandy Plaza Hotel, just 3 miles, but a world away from Johnny Versace's glitzy South Beach. Cunanan is led down this Spartan hallway to room 308, where he's told he must pay his rent in cash every day. Spring turns into summer, and the former altar boy shows the wear and tear of life on the run. Now nearly broke, he approaches gay health club owner Jack Campbell, who's unaware that Cunanan is hiding horrific secrets.
He wanted to work in the club as an employee, and I said, well, you're too pasty-faced, you look unhealthy.
Looking back on that conversation today, Campbell feels fortunate.
I'm probably lucky that these other guys are with me, or he might have pulled that gun on me.
Cunanan is also lucky. Though he's now on the FBI's 10 most wanted list, local police are not actively looking for him.
We had no inkling that he was here in town.
In July, Cunanan goes to a pawn shop around the corner from his hotel and sells a gold coin that he'd stolen from his victim, Lee Miglin. Surprisingly, Cunanan signs his real name on the receipt and even gives his thumbprint. By law, the pawn shop sends the form to the police, but in a backlog of paperwork, it goes unnoticed. A week later, Cunanan is spotted in a sandwich shop. An employee has seen his face on TV.
I think I've seen this guy that I saw in America's Most Wanted, man. This is no joke. Do you know the guy? They profiled him on America's Most Wanted. He was a homosexual.
No, I don't.
You never watched that show?
No.
He was all on the news.
And back at the Normandy Plaza, maintenance man Angelo Maybin overhears Cunanan talking with some hotel guests.
He basically asked him one night where the Versace mansion was, so he told them, they told him where the mansion was, and of course the rest is history.
July 15th. It's early morning, and South Beach's most famous resident, Johnny Versace, is taking his regular stroll 3 blocks down Ocean Drive to the News Cafe. Miami Herald reporter Steve Rothaus says the international celebrity is a creature of habit.
Versace sat at this table, table 33. He would have his breakfast every morning. He'd be here about 8:30 in the morning. He would have a cup of coffee, nothing more and nothing less. He would buy his newspaper in the shop and then walk back to the mansion about 3 blocks north.
Versace's final conversation is with Luis Rodriguez, a waiter at the News Cafe.
I say, Mr. Versace, how are you? He told me, very good, in Italy, buongiorno. I put some water in his feet. He told me, oh, I'm sorry. No problem, no problem. He came to say bye-bye, and he walked to his house over there, Ocean Drive. I say, where's Mr. Versace? See you tomorrow. Thank you very much. This is the last moment I saw him.
So Versace is walking north on Ocean Drive. He's headed towards his home, which faces the Atlantic Ocean. He's walking north on Ocean. He's approaching the steps leading to the mansion. He turns onto the steps, walks up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps, about to put the key into the lock, when suddenly a shot is fired.
50-year-old Johnny Versace is shot twice at close range. Once in the head, once in the neck. A desperate call goes out to 911.
Yes, man's been shot. Please, immediately.
Okay, hold on. How did he get shot, sir?
I don't know. He's walking in front of his home. That's Johnny Versace.
While Versace lies dying at his doorstep, his killer calmly walks away.
Moments after shooting Johnny Versace, the gunman walked north on Ocean Drive, and here at 13th Street, turned left, walked west about a block to where the municipal garage was located.
But as he goes to the garage to his getaway car, Versace's killer is stopped in his tracks when police cars converge on nearby Collins Avenue. He must think they're after him, but in fact, the police are responding to a traffic accident. Then, the gunman is spotted hailing a cab. But word of Versace's murder quickly spreads through the close-knit South Beach.
All hell broke loose, and the police came. There were tourists, there were residents here. There was a tremendous crowd.
It was a very shocking moment for the city. We quickly realized the magnitude of the event.
While hundreds flocked to the front of Versace's mansion, police get a breakthrough clue inside the parking garage where the killer had first headed. They find the red pickup truck that Andrew Cunanan had stolen from his murder victim William Reese months earlier. Miami Beach Police Chief Richard Barretto sends his top detectives to the scene.
They put, the pieces together. They were able to procure identification from the vehicle, and we were able to identify him very quickly.
Within hours, Andrew Cunanan becomes the most wanted man in America.
We're asking that anyone that has any information as to the whereabouts of Andrew Philip Cunanan call the Miami Beach Police Department's hotline.
Over 1,000 tips a day pour in from all over the country. But the most significant one comes from South Beach's own Collins Avenue. A clerk at the hotel where Cunanan has been staying sees a wanted poster and calls the police. The guest she's known as Kurt is the man they're after. Police raid Cunanan's hotel room, but he is gone. Yet they find hair clippings and other evidence indicating that Cunanan had tried to change his looks. July 23rd. A caretaker checks on a luxurious houseboat moored on Indian Creek, 2 miles from South Beach. He notices a lock missing from the front door. He carefully enters. Then he hears a gunshot. Frightened that he's under fire, the caretaker runs outside to call police. Officers move in and seal off the street. A tense standoff begins. After 4 hours, they fire tear gas into the boat. But through the clouds of smoke, they find a half-naked man. He has shot himself in the mouth. Andrew Cunanan is dead.
Our citizens can stand down and breathe a sigh of relief. The reign of terror brought upon us is over.
Andrew Cunanan takes 5 victims and leaves many unanswered questions. The most common one is, had Cunanan and Versace shared a secret past?
I had heard that they had met in San Francisco at the opera, and that he had tried to have a relationship with Versace.
Personally, I think there had to have been some relationship there. You're motivated to do something like that, usually for a reason.
Gianni Versace leaves behind a world-famous destination, forever changed by both his life and his death. Next, California's most beautiful national park is shaken by murder.
The fact that it happened at Yosemite really struck a nerve with a lot of people.
California's Yosemite National Park. Soaring peaks. Cascading waterfalls. A setting so awe-inspiring that its earliest visitors called it the closest thing on Earth to Eden. February 1999. Yosemite's majestic beauty draws a mother, her daughter, and a visiting family friend to a hiking vacation. Carol Sund, her 15-year-old daughter Julie, and 16-year-old Silvina Peloso are in the final days of Silvina's visit from Argentina. The journey takes them first to Anaheim for a stop at Disneyland. Then, several hundred miles north to Stockton, where Julie takes part in a cheerleading competition. From Stockton, the 3 drive 2 hours east to Yosemite, where Carol stops in the village of El Portal. It's just outside the park. They check into the Cedar Lodge. During tourist season, the lodge is usually full, but this is midwinter, and the moderately priced motel is nearly vacant. After a night's rest, Carol, Julie, and Silvina are up early to tour America's 3rd oldest national park. They take these photographs, showing a day of fun and laughter. Louise Bruckner sells the women gasoline on their way to the motel and still remembers their cheerful mood.
They were not sad at all. Lovely, happy people.
That evening they return to Cedar Lodge. Carol goes to their secluded room near the end of the parking lot, while Julie and Sylvina eat hamburgers in the motel restaurant. Cedar Lodge regular Rod Radke is there that evening.
I was with a bunch of guys shooting some pool, and I remember seeing the two girls come in.
7:30 p.m. The girls return to their room, while Carol calls her husband Jens to firm up their plans to meet in San Francisco the next day. She tells him they're planning a quiet evening together watching TV. But the next day, when the always punctual Carol fails to meet her husband, her family becomes alarmed.
I was sure they were in some awful accident somewhere and that they needed help right now.
Carol and Frances Carrington have always been close to their daughter Carol and granddaughter Julie, always making home videos of them.
And there's Carol and Ashley and Julie, all in the hot tub.
Carol really loved being a mother. She wanted to do all she could for her children. They took music lessons, they took part in all kinds of sports, they went to all kinds of camps in the summertime to learn everything they could to have the self-confidence to be good, solid adult citizens.
My favorite music group is TLC and Boyz II Men, and my favorite songs are Have You Ever Really Loved a Woman and Waterfalls.
Julie was 15 years old. She was in a stage in life where she was getting very interested in boys and driving.
Now anxious about his daughter and granddaughter, Frances Carrington calls the highway patrol, and with his son-in-law Jens, heads for the Cedar Lodge.
When I first checked into the lodge where Carol was staying, I was going over to the room. I noticed somebody was kind of looking around corners and peeking at me, which I didn't feel was normal if they didn't know something. And when I got into the room, I called my wife and told her, I said, there's something wrong here. And I started checking garbage cans for something of Carol's.
The next few days, searchers comb the park for a crashed car. But then, there's a disturbing development. Carol's son's billfold is found 90 miles away in Modesto, California.
That was startling because it didn't fit in, of course, at all with an accident. And that's when the FBI stepped in.
FBI Special Agent James Maddock is put in charge of the missing persons case.
We have an enhanced ground search planned for tomorrow that will cover Crane Flat West on Route 20. And I anticipate the search effort is going to be continuing to be extensive.
Ted Rollins is one of the dozens of reporters who suddenly converge on this normally peaceful national park.
The fact that it happened at Yosemite really struck a nerve with a lot of people.
At first, it appears that Carol's billfold links several Modesto men to the case.
These guys who had been involved in methamphetamine and other drug traffickings, basically your band of hooligans in Modesto were being blamed for this.
Weeks pass without any new developments.
We have not arrested anyone. No one has been charged in connection with the missing persons. We have not recovered the missing people. We have not found the car.
For the families of Carol, Julie, and Sylvina, the waiting becomes unbearable.
What keeps you going during that whole thing is your love for your for your family and your memories. It's your life. After all, that's all you have is your family.
Then, a month after Carol and the girls had been seen alive, a local hunter finds a burned-out car. Inside are the remains of Carol Sund and Sylvina Peloso.
As far as the cause of death is concerned, investigators say they do have the results of an autopsy, but they will not share those results with the media. Meanwhile, a 26-member task force has relocated from Modesto down to Tuolumne County.
I really still had hope after the car was found that one of them would be alive.
A few days later, the FBI receives a mocking letter claiming that Julie's body can be found near a scenic rest stop on the highway leading into Yosemite. There, in the brush next to Lake Don Pedro, authorities find Julie's son's battered body.
She was just in the beginning of life, and where she could live and do things on her own. And of course, that's all over now.
Then Yosemite is shaken by yet another murder. And the killer unexpectedly reveals his secrets to a news reporter.
He sort of paused, and he just took a deep sort of breath, and he said, "I am guilty."
Spring 1999. The world focuses on one of the most beautiful places on the planet, California's Yosemite National Park. A woman and 2 girls have disappeared from here. Then, Carol Sund, her daughter Julie, and family friend Silvina Peloso are found dead.
We are committed to stay in this investigation, assisting local authorities until we bring the persons responsible for this horrible crime to justice.
But weeks later, the killer remains at large.
Time went on and on and on and on, and they really didn't seem to be coming to any conclusions.
Tourists start avoiding one of America's most popular vacation spots. There's a killer on the loose here. Then, 5 months later, there's another murder in Yosemite. Just 17 miles from the Cedar Lodge where Carol, Julie, and Silvina had last been seen, naturalist Joey Armstrong is found murdered in a creek. Evidence at the crime scene leads to the arrest of 37-year-old Cary Stayner. He's a drifter who'd most recently been a handyman living at the Cedar Lodge. At first, authorities discouraged speculation that he'd also murdered Carol, Julie, and Silvina. But San Francisco Bay television reporter Ted Rollins has a secret hunch, and he stakes out Stayner's jail. Rollins makes 4 requests for an interview with Stayner. Then, one late night, Stayner finally calls Rollins to his cell. But before Stayner talks, he wants a deal.
Said, before I do this, I've got a couple stipulations. I want you to get a hold of Hollywood producers in Los Angeles. And I want you to sell this story. I want a movie of the week made about my story. I just nodded and said, okay, thinking that I had no connections to, these producers, but I was not going to stop the interview and say, oh, you got the wrong guy here.
Stayner's next words are chilling.
He sort of paused, and he just took a deep sort of breath. He said, I killed Carol Sund, Julie Sund, Silvina Peloso, and Joey Armstrong. His demeanor throughout the entire interview was very calm. He never raised his voice. We were in a typical jailhouse interview, doing it by phone through a piece of glass. We talked for about 25 minutes, and in no time did he ever raise his voice. He was very clear, and he spoke very, very slowly.
This is the account that Stayner gives. 10:30 p.m. Stayner knocks on the door of the motel room where Carol, Julie, and Silvina are staying. Then, Stayner the handyman tells Carol Sund he just needs to fix something in the bathroom. She lets him in. Stayner enters the bathroom, but seconds later, he emerges with a gun.
The 3 women didn't put up any fight. He had a gun, and he told me that they cooperated. That was the term he used.
According to the FBI and Stayner himself, he assaults and strangles Carol and Silvina, then stuffs their bodies into the trunk of their rented red Pontiac. Next, he forces Julie, who's still alive, into the front seat. He takes the terrified teenager on a long drive through the freezing winter night. At Lake Don Pedro, the ride finally ends. Police say Stayner drags Julie through the brush, slashes her throat, then leaves her body on a remote hillside. Then Stayner gets back into the car, with Carol's and Silvina's bodies still in the trunk.
Stayner told me that he then drove the car all the way here to Long Barn, bringing the car down into this logging trail. He let it go and then
ended up walking away and catching a cab back to Yosemite Village.
Stainer tells Rollins that 2 days after the murders, he had gone back and burned the car to destroy the evidence. Finally, Stainer reveals to the reporter that he is the one who'd sent the mocking letter to the FBI after agents had found the car.
At that point, with Julie's body still missing, Stainer told me that he decided to send a letter to the FBI, sending it through the sheriff's department, which told them exactly where to find Julie's body here at Lake Don Pedro. He also made a point of telling me that he used someone else's saliva to seal the envelope, almost bragging about his expertise.
Some theorize that Stainer gets a thrill with all the worldwide attention the case is getting.
He likes the publicity. I think he wants to take credit for everything in his own demented way.
It may be why Stainer stays in the area and strikes again 5 months later.
Stainer told me that this was an area that he came to frequently, he was familiar with it, and he just came here to unwind and sort of collect his thoughts. On that evening, he was here, and he happened to notice Joey Armstrong outside of her house, and he walked up and started to engage her in conversation. He claimed he had seen Bigfoot on different occasions right in this area, and he looked behind her and he noticed that she was completely alone in the house, and he said at that point, he just couldn't help himself.
Near the western edge of Yosemite, Stainer pulls a knife on Joey Armstrong. But the 26-year-old mountain climber puts up a ferocious fight and breaks away. She runs for her life through the forest and manages to flee several hundred-yard cabin. But Stainer chases Joey down and murders her by this creek.
He says that she fought him to the death, and that it was because of that fight that he was eventually caught, because he said he left a lot of evidence there, and when he eventually left here, he knew it was only a matter of time before he was going to be caught.
Stainer returns to the Cedar Lodge, but the next night, neighbor Rod Radke sees him packing his bags.
I says, "How you doing, Kerry?" And he says, "I'm doing fine, I'm out of here," is what he said basically. He was loading up his Jeep that he had. He seemed like he was in a hurry to get out of here.
A day later, the world sees the face of Cary Stainer when he is arrested. Carol's son's father, Francis Carrington, recognizes the handyman that he felt had been spying on him earlier.
I reported it both to the Sheriff's Department and the FBI and told them there was something wrong there. Then the wallet was found in Modesto, and I think that threw everybody heading towards Modesto, but as it turned out, it was all at Cedar Lodge.
But Stainer's motives for the 4 grisly murders are baffling. Why would a 37-year-old man with no criminal history suddenly go on a killing spree?
And so why he did it, I asked him that, and he says he's been asking himself why for 30 years. He says he's heard voices in his head and had fantasies for the past 30 years of his life about killing women and putting them in compromising positions, tying them up, etc. He says he's never acted on them until he acted on them at the Cedar Lodge with the sons and the Peloso, and Silvina Peloso.
Some speculate he'd finally snapped long after a sexual predator had kidnapped Stainer's younger brother, Stephen, and held him for 7 years before he escaped. But Cary Stainer denies it.
He said it had nothing to do with it. He said that he had these feelings for an entire lifetime, remembering when he was 7 years old, specifics about having desires to kill and trap women.
Stainer not only stays at the Cedar Lodge for months after the first murders, but he even helps the FBI search for evidence.
If he'd run right away, I think it would have been more obvious.
He looks so normal, speaks so normally. It's hard to think that this guy is a serial killer.
But perhaps the most troubling question is, how could one man overpower 4 women he just met, then murder them? Relatives of Carol and Julie's sons know that answer. Stainer hadn't acted alone.